Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Life and Love. As we finished last video talking about awareness, I'm here now to talk about attachment and identification, because these two factors are stopping us from real being that awareness state. So we do attach for many reasons. Fear is one of the factor in us being attached. Control is another. We need to control, therefore we are attached to whatever we need to control. So I like to go to the masters to see what they state regarding attachments and identifications. First one would be Padmasambhava, a great Buddhist master.
Also there exist others who, being attached to their own personal ideas and interpretations, become fettered by these attachments and so do not perceive the clear light. The Sravakas and the Pratyekabuddhas are, mentally, obscured by their attachments to subject and object. The Madhyamikas are, mentally, obscured by their attachments to the extremes of the two truths. The practitioners of the Kriya Tantra and the Yoga Tantra are, mentally, obscured by their attachments to Siva Sadhana practice. The practitioners of the Mahayoga and the Anayoga are, mentally, obscured by their attachments to space and awareness. And with respect to the real meaning of non-duality, since they divide these, space and awareness, into two, they fall into deviation. If these two do not become one without any duality, you will certainly not attain Buddhahood. In terms of your own mind, as is the case with everyone, samsara, state of wandering, and nirvana, enlightened state, are inseparable. Nonetheless, because you persist in accepting and enduring attachments and aversions, you will continue to wander in samsara. Padmasambhava.
Here the great master is pointing out that in order for us to perceive the clear light, which is the clear light of awareness, we need to detach from all ideas, from objects, from people also. And in that detachment, love can flow. So also in being detached by anything, you are free. You don't hold to anyone, you don't depend on anyone. You are interdependent with everything. So let's go to see what a Christian saint has to say about it.
Detachment is the mark of a perfect soul, whereas it is characteristic of an imperfect soul to be worn down with anxiety about material things. The perfect soul is called a lily among thorns, meaning that it lives with detachment in the midst of those who are troubled by such anxiety. For in the Gospel the lily signifies the soul that is detached from worldly care. They do not toil or spin, yet even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of them. But of those who devote much anxious thought to bodily things, it is said, all the life of the ungodly is spent in anxiety. It is indeed ungodly to spend one's whole life worrying about bodily things and to give. Saint Diodochos of Photiki.
The saint here is pointing out that a perfect soul lives freely among thorns, among people which are afflicted by anxiety, by fears, by depression, by whatever mental obscurity they have. So in order for one to be free, one has to detach from the worldly care. The more you care about worldly things, the more anxiety you have regarding them, because you know you want to control or you want to have more, and so on. So it is imperative to detach from worldly care, and then one maybe can live in more peace. Let's see what Ramana Maharshi has to say regarding attachment.
The spirit is wrongly identifying itself with the gross body. The body has been projected by the mind. The mind itself has originated from the spirit. If the wrong identification ceases, there will be peace and permanent unbroken bliss. Life is existence, which is yourself. That is life eternal. Otherwise, can you imagine a time when you are not? That life is not conditioned by the body and you wrongly identify your existence with that of the body. You are life unconditioned. These bodies attach themselves to you as mental projections and you are afflicted by, I am the body, idea. If this idea ceases, you are yourself. Sri Ramana Maharshi.
Here Ramana Maharshi is stating beautifully how we identify ourselves with the gross body. So when the idea that I'm the body and I'm not more than the body ceases, it gives us a freedom that we are not only the body, but we are more than the body. And in doing so, which is very, very hard to do, that is the hardest thing to let go of, the idea that we are the body and the mind. But if one can do so, one will open up a flood of love which runs in all directions. Let's see what Saint Ramdas has to say about attachment.
Understand that the greatest fortune is to be inwardly detached, and that there is no greater misfortune than being attached to worldly things. Saint Sri Samartha Ramdas.
Here Ramdas also points out that the more we are attached to worldly things, the more we'll suffer. So if you become inwardly detached, because outwardly detachment, it's a little bit harder. You still need to cooperate with life, with the gross body, with others. But to be inwardly detached, it's essential. And it's not an easy task to achieve. Let's see what Saint Anthony the Great is saying.
Evil is a passion found in matter, and so it is not possible for a body to come into being free from evil. The intelligent soul, grasping this, strives to free itself from the evil burden of matter, and when it is free from this burden, it comes to know the God of all, and keeps watch on the body as being an enemy and does not yield to it. Then the soul is crowned by God for having conquered the passions of evil and of matter. Saint Anthony the Great.
Here Saint Anthony, it's pointing out how evil is a passion found in matter. So it is imperative for us to detach from the idea that we are the body or we are the mind. And in doing so, we go beyond the body and the mind. Not that we leave them behind, we use them as they are tools for us to exist in this three-dimensional existence, but we don't attach to them, we don't give them only importance. So we give importance to everything through the body and through the mind. And then we open ourselves to greater awareness of our being. I go to another saint, Nisargadatta Maharaj.
Q. Do you love the world? M. When you are hurt, you cry. Why? Because you love yourself. Don't bottle up your love by limiting it to the body. Keep it open. It will be then the love for all. When all the false self-identifications are thrown away, what remains is all-embracing love. Get rid of all ideas about yourself, even of the idea that you are God. No self-definition is valid. Nisargadatta Maharaj.
Here, Nisargadatta Maharaj is also expressing how we always think of ourselves, and we need to identify ourselves with the body and the mind, for we then bring about freedom, which allows us to connect with nature, with things, with the awareness of being. I go again to Ram Dass regarding identification.
Saying that oneself is I or me is ego. The sense that one is an individual is what is meant by ego. Ego is ignorance, which means having attachment to the sense of an independent I. When attachment is given up, there is unity with that which is unattached. This is the authority of the attainment of that which is without imagination. When one does not know oneself, it is called ignorance. When ignorance is removed by self-knowledge, one realizes oneself as Parabrahman, God. Understand that body identification is not important in Parabrahman, God. There, the sense of I has no place. Brahman is said to natural, existing at all times, pure wisdom, beyond everything, permanent, and beyond words. Saint Sri Samartha Ramdas.
Saint Ram Dass here also explains how the ego is keeping us from that awareness of being, from being one with everything, from allowing love to rule our lives. So it is important also, he states, that attachment needs to be given up. The most important attachment is the attachment to the body and mind, which is the ego itself. So that ego needs to be put in its place, as we stated before. It needs to be the servant and not the master. So we need to let go of that. And it's very hard, it's not easy to do so. It is like a feeling of being annihilated, a feeling of non-existence if I give up my body identification. But that's not the case. If we just observe, in that observation of what and how attachments are somehow meddling in our life, meddling with how much we can love, and especially the feeling of the ego gives a feeling of being separated from everything. It's like I am alone and everything is something else. So ego is separation. Giving up ego, it's unity. In that unity, you find yourself. Attachments are not a problem in themselves, but when the ego keeps on holding to them, and that's the biggest problem. So when a baby is born, of course it'll have a natural attachment to the mother, to be cared for, because it's a natural attachment. And that attachment becomes, as the baby grows, it becomes detached. It detaches itself. Once the baby, it's an adult, and can fend for themselves and so on, then attachment to the mother becomes more free. It's more freedom in that relationship where one is not attached and dependent physically or other ways to another person. Even a bird, until it learns to fly, is attached to the mother which feeds and the father which feeds them. But once he learns to fly, he's gone, isn't it? Fly on its own. So we need to observe our attachments, how attachments produce fear, and how fear also produces attachment. It's a vicious circle which we need to get out of it. To be attached to the wife, to the son, to the daughter, we think it's a natural process, but it's not. Because where attachment is, love cannot flow. It is a love which is corrupted by only what I want to have and the relationship I want to have with the son, daughter, wife. It is attachment and identification with my body which gives birth to an image about myself. And if that image is somehow broken by somebody words or by something, I'm hurt. How come you're telling me that I'm an idiot when I'm not? So this is an example of how that image which one creates for themselves and for the others are broken. We mainly work with these images in our relationship. So our relationship is based, it's a relationship between images, not between our own realities, which is very wrong. Images should not be you should not be attached to images, because you should always be ready to flow, because the image is that image which you are, it's a living entity. It's not an image which is set in a portrait or a picture. If you hold on to that image, then you cannot flow beautifully with life, because that holding on to the image, attaching to that what I am, will stop you from flowing with life, with love, with in harmony with nature. So one has to look at those things. Why are we attached? Where is the identification with my body and my mind coming from? Is it from fear of not existing? It is from fear of not having. Whatever it is, to some people, those fears are different than the other people. But one has to look for themselves what attachment does in everyday life. And once you understand, once you see how attachment stop love from flowing, then you will naturally detach. In that observation, detachment is there. You don't need to force yourself to be detached, because then you are still in the opposite, in the world of duality. But you need to observe, and in that attachment disappears. The moment you say I detach, you don't detach. It's the same wolf in a different skin. You're still in the world of duality. You're not whole and integral. So it is important to just observe yourself, observe your attachment, observe what they do to your everyday life. And in that observing, a different quality of love and life comes about. So I encourage you to look at those things and maybe read the statements which I have expressed to you, presented to you, because in those statements there's a lot of wisdom. Wisdom will help you get rid of ignorance. And when ignorance is not there, love flows, and your reality will show itself by itself without you having to put effort into it. So I hope this video helped you somehow look at how we are attached, what havoc this attachment creates in our lives, and see if one can detach from worldly care. Not that you don't have compassion. Compassion is not attached to anything. It's a common passion. It's not a passion which goes in one specific direction. That's why it's called compassion, because it's common passion. So in order to be compassionate, you need not be attached to anything. Then compassion arises with no effort. Love flows with no effort. So then you are integral. You are a part of everything and not separate from anything which ego wants you to be. Ego wants you to be identified with the body and mind so he can survive. He can do whatever he like through us. So thank you for listening to today's video. I wish you all the best and much joy in your life. Bye bye.